What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another Fuel Friday where me and my good friend Dr. Harrison break down a topic in 15 minutes or less to help you on the right path to building your happiest, healthiest life. Dr. Harrison, I got the timer going.
Sounds
What
great.
what is the topic today?
The topic today is what you told me about this morning. Asking the question and wondering how much does sporadic sleep patterns affect overall energy, body composition, vitality,
Health.
emotion,
All
health,
of
health.
it. And
Um,
so to give backstory on this, we had a topic in place, and then I came to Dr. Harrison and I said, dude, I'm tired today. I said, I wonder how much, because the days I have to coach in the mornings, I'm waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Then two of the other days I'm waking up at 5:30. Then the other days I'm waking up at 7, almost every day is a different time that I'm waking up. And then when I go to bed, sometimes it's 9, sometimes it's 10, just depending. How much is this affecting my overall progress, my health, my work, like just all of it? He said, we should talk about that today. And so here we are. Here we are.
Here we are. Okay, because time is short.
Hmm.
Um, I'm going to start out and explain some statistics on altered sleep patterns so we can to illustrate how impactful this is. And we may
Okay.
have talked about this before somewhere.
Yep.
But do you know, we talked about this, so maybe you know the answer. Do you know what days of the year has the highest rates of heart attack and stroke?
You said it was during daylight savings when the time shifts. Is that
Time
accurate?
change. Mhm.
Yeah.
And if we think of that, doesn't mean you're going to have a heart attack on daylight savings time or a change in either way. But
Hmm.
it puts people over their threshold, and that's the highest rates of heart attack and stroke.
Wow.
Well, that's 1 hour variance. Let's just let that sink in. 1 hour variance in a sleep cycle. That's
So
it.
what you're saying is that if somebody normally gets 7 hours of sleep every single night, and I'm sure there's other metrics and health markers at play
Yeah,
here, but that time change, whether it's an hour less or an hour more, all of a sudden that shift on a consistent basis now, right? Because the time is changing, things like that. That day of the time shift is where we see more heart attack, strokes, things like that than any other time of the year.
that's exactly right.
Holy
And
cow.
that's a 1 hour variance. So we got to wrap our head around only 1 hour shift in schedule. Okay, so then the other thing is what what days of the year have the highest rates of car accidents?
Would it be the same?
Exactly. Okay, so those are
Wow.
just two metrics, and the insurance companies follow this because there's liability on these days.
Mhm.
Insurance premiums change depending on when you sign up and how many of these metrics are in. It's unbelievable.
That's
So,
crazy.
so okay, so 1 hour variance can have that impact on health. Now, let's just think of the vast majority. We won't even pick on you or me because I told you I was also I deviated my sleep pattern about an hour last night, and my internal alarm clock wakes. I wake up at the same time. So the classic Western world, and I don't know about other societies, I imagine it's the same. If we have a weekend off, what do? We go to bed at the wake up at the same time hopefully if we're not dealing with schedules like maybe entrepreneurs are, and we're just kind of working, we wake up at the same time, we go to bed at relatively the same time in the perfect world. But then Friday comes along, and then here we are, we're on Friday. Well, chances are Friday night we stay up a little later because we don't have the pain point of having to wake up at the same time. We want to live life. My patients say, "Oh, I just want to live life." I get it. So it drifts about an hour. Most people sleep in about an hour later or they go to bed an hour later on Friday night. That's only 1 hour. We know these people sleep in or stay up all 2 hours, 3 hours. Who knows?
Yep.
So then Saturday morning they wake up, or sorry, Saturday morning they wake up a lot later if they're able to wake up later. A lot of people, their internal clock doesn't change after the age of about 35. It's kind of always the same for you.
Mhm.
Have a choice. So you wake up early. So now you're 3 hours deficient. Well, in an extreme case, we'll say 2 hours deficient in sleep. And then the next day happens, and usually we stay the same 2 hour off our regular path or even go farther. And then we go to bed so much later Sunday night. This is why we hate Monday. This is why Monday has a bad rap, is because we wake up so sleep deprived versus the rest of the week. And it takes till Thursday before we start feeling better. And then bang, all over again.
Over again. Wow, and I think that's a normal thing. I think that my
Mhm.
schedule is all crazy, so I don't have that consistent schedule. So this has happened to me on right now, the last month or two has been on an almost daily basis. Everything is different. So I guess the next question, and we talked about the heart disease and stuff, but how does this, I mean, do you have any statistics as far as like obesity rates, as far as,
Hmm.
we talked about stroke and heart disease, health metrics, performance. Do you have any statistics or anything like that that drives
Yeah,
it?
we may have talked about this somewhere as well, but obesity, or sorry, insomnia, whatever we want to define as insomnia, and how much sleep deprivation insomnia is. But that increases obesity, not weight gain, but increases obesity rates by just under 20%. So out of so yeah, if you have a room of 10 people that have sleep problems, um, two of them, at least two of them are going to be obese as a result. Obese, not overweight, but obese as a result. So how many people are going to be overweight as a result of it? It's
That's it.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
You know this growth hormone is manufactured when most growth hormone was with sleep.
Mhm.
Growth hormone is a precursor to so many other metabolic functioning pieces. Um, so it's critical. Antioxidant status, inflammatory status is all influenced by sleep. Sleep is the first thing I talk about in clinic because it's so critical. And then I talk about people's sleep habits when they go to bed, when they wake up. The question I ask is, how early do you have to, what's the earliest day scheduled or time you have to wake up to handle any day of the week? And then they might say, oh, whatever, it's 6 or something. I'm like, okay. And then we talk about consistencies and say, what would it be like to wake up at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning? I couldn't do that, Dr. Harrison. And I'm like, well, we are not robots, but how close could we come to that? Going to bed. And so trying to reduce the variability on the weekends or non-work schedules so it doesn't get thrown off so much.
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing. When we look at shift workers, so this is where really things get really, really scary. So shift workers, and I used to be a shift worker. I worked in the mining industry, as I shared with you in the
Mhm.
past, or maybe I didn't. Yeah, that paid for school back in my other life.
I did
And
not know that. Wow.
yeah, no, I traveled all over the world, and it paid for undergrad, and it's what got me into indirectly and where I am in many different ways. And I wasn't keeping up with all the trends in health and statistics in health. And I was much younger, so shift work wasn't bad. I was tired on night shift, and it was 12-hour shifts. It was 7 to 7 a.m. p.m. plus your travel time to wherever you're working.
Mhm.
And I was night shift. The younger guys had no problem. They could stay up all night. They didn't feel great. It beats the hell out of you, but it wasn't detrimental. The guys that were like 35 or 30 and up, it was different. Everything, they were dragging their tails, all of that, because as we age, we have a harder and harder time to maintain sleep patterns, and we need everything lined up. And it doesn't matter if you block out your windows and sleep in the daytime and turn bright lights on at night. Our bodies follow circadian rhythm, the sleep wake, the sun and moon cycles. It just does. So you can try to modify that, but you're still not going to do that well. And as a result, some really hidden information that the mining companies don't reveal because they don't want to scare away their employees. But night shift workers, and I'm going to screw this up because I know the statistics change, but at one time, night shift workers in the mining sector alone, because I looked into the stats, heart attack rates went up by 35%, and
Holy cow.
diabetes went up something like 40% if you are a shift worker, night
That's
shift.
crazy.
It's
And yeah, and it's interesting you bring all this stuff up, especially the age thing, because I just turned 30, so I'm starting to feel
oh
all
my
these.
goodness.
Yeah. But I just made a post the other day of like this no excuses mentality. And like I used to be in college, I had to take my classes all day, all my studying, then I have to work. I was coaching gymnastics from, 4 o'clock till 9 p.m. And so the only time I had to work out was after that. I'd go to the gym from like 10 to midnight on a consistent basis. And again, different days, different schedules and things like that. And I just made it work. Dude, I could not imagine doing that nowadays. Like there's just no way my body would even be able to handle doing that with them. I like the sleep is just so important. So it's interesting that you said as time goes on and we get older that
Yeah,
to
yeah, and
this.
I remember I still remember there was this he was an older guy, right? I was like 20 or 19 or whatever when I start 19 when I started. And I remember, I'd sleep anytime. There was no problem. And
Hmm.
it was just the sun was up or the sun was down when I'd wake up for work for shift. And there was this older guy. He was like 30. He was older, right? And he said, "Oh, it must be enjoy it while it lasts." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Because he was already up and twiddling his thumbs. in the kitchen because we had a kitchen. It was a compound where we'd stay. And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Just wait till you get a little bit older. Enjoy your sleep now." And I'm like, "Yeah, I work out, right?" That was my
Right.
thought. Oh, it wasn't even 30. I think it was like 23, and I started
Uh-huh.
to notice it. It really
That's so
kicked.
funny. Well, it's interesting that, sleep is important in all stages and all ages. We know that, but it's interesting. I always hear the joke of like in kindergarten, they force you to have nap time. And that's the last thing you want to do in kindergarten is take a nap. And you get into your 30s, you're like, where's my nap time at work?
Yeah,
Like, that's
that would
all
be
I
great.
want is a nap.
That would be
So
great.
I want to give something tactical. We still have about 4.5 minutes, but something tactical for most people because what I see, and this kind of gets into stress and things like that, but this importance of sleep is that so many people are struggling with their health markers, their cholesterol, their diabetes, they're obese, all these things and they think I got to do more, I got to do more, I got to work out more, I got to work out longer, I got to do more. And it's just like sometimes you need to actually do less and just sleep and get those
Hands
things in
down.
place. And the thing I was telling you is I feel like I'm operating at 50% all the time because my sleep is off. Versus if I actually did less, recovered the right way, and slept the right amounts I'm supposed to and get in this rhythm of things, then the times I do work out, or I am even, we talk about the business and what I'm trying to do with the business, I can operate at 100% because I'm actually taking the opportunity to take care of myself. So I guess my next question for you, and it's twofold. One is how do we feel about naps? Are naps a good thing, bad thing? Does it mess things up? Or is it a good thing that we should be practicing if we are that tired? And number two, what about the hours we sleep? If it's good quality sleep, if you're getting 7 hours every single night, but the time you go to bed and the time you wake up is different. So we go to bed at 9 o'clock versus 10 o'clock, but I'm still getting 7 hours. Would that
Yeah,
be
good question. So the first part of the question was
naps?
naps. So naps, if someone could nap, the question I ask people, if if you could you nap if you had the opportunity to nap. Some people say, "Yeah, I just don't have the opportunity to nap." And I'm like, "Crap, you're so sleep deprived." So adults shouldn't need a nap. When people are over the age of like 77, naps can be a good thing for them if they can nap. I would say it's highly functional because they have a harder time to get into a deeper sleep at night. It's intermittent. It's much harder. Not every 77-year-old and up, right? It is that way. Some people are 60 and they have terrible sleeps and they have the opportunity to nap and they nap because they're retired or whatever and
Mhm.
have time. So I would say for adults, you shouldn't need a nap. If you need a nap, there's a problem. But if you feel like you could have a nap and you have the opportunity for a nap, you're in recovery phase. Please nap. Okay.
Mm,
That's how I would say it.
okay.
And little kids, of course, they little kids naps are good because they're growing faster than
Yes.
everything, so they need all the resources. So that's that answer to that question.
Okay.
The next thing is if you have 7 hours, that 7 hour quantity, if it's shifted up or later, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Um, I would say it still does. Now, if you can keep your 7 hours consistent, it's going to be much better than if you have a shifting schedule. Because if you look at some of the elite athletes in the world, like UFC fighters and all that, their trainers will have them go to bed and wake up within the same 15 minutes every day. And
Mhm.
if there's a competition 8 to 12 months down the road, that's how rigid because they know that that regular sleep cycle is critical. And a lot of times when people shift their schedule, if it's later or earlier, intermittent, they might be sleeping, but they're not going to be locked down and sleeping because our bodies love a very consistent schedule. Now, if
Yeah.
you're 20 or 18 or 16, doesn't matter. 1 hour doesn't make any difference. You sleep like a baby deep late into the morning.
It makes sense. So it's ideal if we can have it go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same
Mm.
time. But we're saying that the quality of sleep is also we know is super important. And if we're shifting, going to bed an hour later and waking up an hour later, then are we really getting that quality of sleep? Because your body
Right.
still probably wants to wake
It's
up at that
already
normal
waking up.
time.
Yeah.
And even if you sleep through it, is it really getting that quality of sleep?
Right. It's
Um,
usually tossing and turning later on in
yeah.
the morning. You're not getting the depth of sleep. And then the other thing you said, and I love what you said about that, if you're in an energy deficient state or a sleep deficient state, you're like, well, I still got to go to bed at midnight because something went on in work or business or family or life. And it's like, well, I still got to get up at 5 in the morning to get out to the gym and be there at 5:30. It's like that is chaos. It's like
Yeah.
you're in a deficient state going into your workout, oxygen or an antioxidant deficient state. You're going to be more depleted on the other side. So I tell people sleep over exercise. And I hate to say that, but depending on how sleep compromised they are, yeah.
Well, and that's where I tell people it's just better for a lot of people, especially in that state, is just activity. Like not even like having to wake up and do this hardcore workout, but even if we just like got more steps throughout the day,
Go
like
for a
holy
walk.
cow,
Yeah.
right? Like that
And
would
I've
be
done,
freaking amazing.
and it took me about 15 years to learn this rule. And I used to fall asleep in undergrad. I used to fall asleep between sets on the weight bench. There we are.
There we are. So finish that story though. You used to fall asleep in
Yeah, I
between.
used to fall asleep on the weight bench between
What?
sets because I would work out like 3.5, 4 hours a day, plus academia, plus everything. I was just so dialed in and I was sleep deprived. I wasn't making the gains I should have. I wasn't dialing in nutrition, all of these other things back in the day. And I was sleep deprived. It was unbelievable, you know?
Wow.
So
That's
anyway,
amazing. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with us. You guys, please don't forget to share the episode. You never know, you might just change somebody's life. But other than that, we'll see you guys later.